We had 442 calls for service, 84 reports taken, and 18 arrests in Roseland. Majority of the calls, it seems, the three top were audible alarms, which I want to talk to everybody about a little bit. I'll just get into that. So I would say the majority of our days are spent bouncing around going to audible residential burglar alarms. So that takes 1 to 2 deputies per call for people that are setting off their own alarms, not updating things, to where we can't get a hold of you to make sure it's a real alarm or a fake alarm. 99.9% of the time they're false alarms. So if you guys spread the word, update your systems. If it's a false alarm, call our dispatch. If your alarm company goes through our dispatch, call our dispatch. Let us know. So we're not wasting time.
No, sorry.
Yes.
After a certain amount, I know some counties, I think LA County will start fining after a certain amount. Does Kern County do that?
No. I wish we would. I've brought it up several times. That'd be another source of revenue, and maybe even, get people to pay attention to their alarms. We have it with businesses and all these homes where we're getting constant burglar alarms going on, and a lot of them are repeat offenders. It's
I have a
different.
question. Did you say the majority of them are homes or businesses?
It's a mix. I'd say the majority are homes, I've noticed, but a handful of businesses mixed in. So it's something to think about. Everybody knows we're short-staffed, we're spread thin. That will help if you get calls for service.
Yeah, if they just call to say that it's a false alarm,
Yeah,
like
hey, I'm
here,
home.
everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because then they know not to come out, because the down below, like Lancaster, Palmdale, if the police go to the site, they charge, you have to pay. So it encourages the people who are, getting dinged with the bill, they're like, I gotta call in quick, make sure
Yeah.
they know, don't send it please.
The one at our church, it has a button on it, you can cancel it. I don't know if residences or not.
A lot of them do, they have cancel buttons.
Yeah.
But,
Lots of people set them off before, when they leave though, right?
what's that?
A lot of people set their alarms off when they leave, and that's when you can't get a hold of them.
Yeah, when they leave, or, motion sensors on and they left a pet inside, things of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, sir?
There's one more.
What were the other two top three?
They're check welfares, people calling in concerned for their neighbors, mental health checks, things like that.
What are some of the outcomes on those?
Most of, like right now with the heat, we've had a lot of people need to be transported to the hospital, things of that nature.
Wow.
But, it varies. It could be somebody that actually needs legitimate help, or it could be a homeless guy sleeping on some sidewalk and we just check on him and go inside his place.
Okay.
Then the other top call for service out here was what we refer to as patrol checks. People going out of town wanting us to go by their homes and just make sure everything's good, just schedule patrol checks, things of that nature. Those are our top 3 calls for service at least last month. Everything else is kind of down.
The 18 arrests that you made, can you tell us what some of those were?
I had it, but I cannot find it. I do recall we had a handful of domestic violence, drug, and stolen property. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head though.
Thank you guys for everything you guys do. Thank you.
Yeah, that seems starting from the CHP.
Yeah, hi. For those of you that don't know me, which is probably everyone here, this is my first time in high school. I'm not very Sergeant Mounjoy here, but I just found out about this a couple hours ago. That being said, I'm Sergeant Steve Nielsen, work out of the Mojave office. So I've been in this area almost 15 years, working in this area. The majority of our problems that we see as from a highway patrol standpoint, or we get a lot of reckless driver calls in the Roseman area. Like that is probably by far and away our most common call. I don't know about how many of you live a little further west, but that is a pretty popular place for street racing, where the track is and then further west. We had a street racing task force recently where we had some intel on a group from the LA area that was coming up here to have a quote-unquote sideshow, a street racing event. We were able to locate them, and we issued 53 citations in about a 3-hour period.
Oh,
So hopefully that's enough to deter them from coming back, at least in the near future. Outside of that, our typical, day-to-day is calls for service, which would include anything from disabled motorists to collisions, and then of course our primary arrests are going to be DUI arrests. Recently, we've had a string of firearm arrests. We had one of our officers the other night arrest a guy with a machine gun, a legitimate machine gun, just north of Roseland. So that happens. We've had a high number of pursuits recently. I would say in the last, this year we've probably had 25 pursuits, which is significantly more than we normally have. But I'd like to say that we have more personnel to come down here and increase our patrols, but the reality is right now I have 2 officers working, and they're responsible for everything from Park Flat, I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but Park Flat all the way to Avenue A to the San Bernardino County line, all the way up to the Inyo County line. So that's a lot of real estate for just two guys to cover. So we're working on it. The state is trying to, there's a push, we're trying to hire 1,000 more officers right now. So if you know someone, please have them apply. Sir?
I noticed a greater presence along the Ashby Little Springs Road
There are,
Sunday, and I thought, are there that many guys out here?
well, there are a couple.
Oh, it's hard to tell because I was going by so fast.
Everyone is. There are a couple of locations that we've identified as troubled locations that we try to increase our patrols. TWS is one of those. Another one is Cal City Boulevard, north of State Route 58. Those are both, I mean, if you travel that road, you know that it's hard to find a vehicle that's not speeding out there. So
It is.
we're trying to increase patrols just to slow people down, and that's obviously the goal is safety, right? Get from point A to point B without anybody getting hurt. So
You know, sir, one of the things I've noticed, it was about a month ago, there was an overturn, and then about a week ago, going out towards the base, just past the apartment, another SUV overturned. And we're talking Roseland Boulevard. It's amazing.
Overturn on
Yeah, no, I mean, that you can get that fast, go over here, and it's causing you to overturn. And
yeah. Well, I mean, the last one that you're talking about, the SUV, was actually a fatal collision. Which
It was a what?
A fatal crash. Someone.
Fatal.
Yeah. We've had a rash of those recently. But you'd be surprised that it doesn't really take a lot of speed to overturn a vehicle. I've seen cars overturned in parking lots. And I mean, it's just vehicle dynamics, right? So it doesn't necessarily equate to high speed, but certainly, cause for injuries. So, but that's all I have. So if anybody has any other questions,
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right, let's get down to Laura Flynn.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura Lynn Wyatt. I'm the District Director for Kern County Supervisor Zach Scrivener, who represents this area. We are very, very, very busy, and I have a lot. So I am going to try to stick to my 3 minutes. If you need to meet me off the floor, please feel free. First thing I'm going to do is take the bite of the big apple and talk about the swimming pool. Everybody wants to know when the swimming pool is going to open. So we just completed lifeguards, Red Cross lifeguard certification. We had 8 lifeguards pass the testing. We had a lot of applicants, but a lot of people decided that they moved on to other jobs, or they didn't want to have to go through the Red Cross training process. The Red Cross training process is pretty rigorous. It's a lot, and as it should be, right? Because you're monitoring people in the swimming pool. You may have to take life-saving measures. So it's a serious position. But with those 8 lifeguards, they're now going through the hiring packet with the County of Kern. and we are currently waiting on an environmental license. The environmental inspection kicked a couple things back to the contractor that they wanted to change. So we are right there. We are really, 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 really close. We have combated vandalism at this site from day one. It's really, really disappointing. It really is. You know, I get asked all the time, why doesn't the county care about Rosemont? Why doesn't the county do more things for Rosemont? And then when you put the work through, you know, your heart is in it, and you think, oh my gosh, we're delivering this beautiful product, and it gets vandalized. It's sad. It's really sad. We have brand new picnic tables, good heavy coated picnic tables that were chained to concrete pillars in the pool. The reason they were chained to the pillars is we don't want people dragging them across the brand new decking, right? Somebody broke in, cut the chains, and threw the picnic tables in the pool. If you can visualize the weight of a picnic table, and now you've got the resistance of water, it was a monumental task to try to get those picnic tables out of the pool. 2 days after that was cleaned up, the contractors showed up in the morning, and the pool, a bunch of dirt had been thrown in the pool. They spent the day cleaning the pool. So this is 5 steps forward, 3 steps backwards, right? Because now your contractor isn't working on the punch list items that the environmental people are requiring them to do. Instead, they're spending time getting dirt out of the pool or getting picnic tables out of the pool, right? So we're doing the best we can, but you know, I just hope and pray every night that the community embraces this project and loves the pool and utilizes the pool, and it is a beautiful facility. It's absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to share it with the community. So there's that, that's where we're at. I expect us to open anytime now, but I'm still not allowed to give a specific date. Yeah?
You know, I told you today, I want to tell the whole group, I sent a note.
You're taking my 3 minutes, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Stop her, Tom. Anyway, I sent a request through my website, the county website, like everybody's supposed to.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's ever, and right after what happened with me over there in the pool. And in that note, I said, if you want to stop it, because they won't hire a security guard, that's out of the question. I even talked to the sheriff. We would have to do it out of our own pockets. I told him, why don't you put razor band? You and I talked about it today, but I'll say it to the group. I don't want to see it happen, but there's too large of an investment out there for the community, for people to disrespect it. Disrespected me as a taxpayer, and you as a taxpayer, and everybody in this room, and everybody in this community. Put razor band on the top of that thing, because I've done it for the company I used to work for, and by God, it stops it. But and I hate to say it, because to me, you know, oh boy, we're being a third world country or whatever you want to say. But somehow we need to protect the investment in this community. And people, when they see something, report it. I keep telling them on social media, write a report. Well, nobody will do nothing. Doesn't care. They're being notified that something's going on, and they can maybe use that information to help us moving forward. But if you don't tell somebody, nobody ever hears them. You know, but
Yeah.
they never answered me.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah,
Yeah.
goodbye or
Did you have a
whatever.
question about the pool? Or? Go ahead, sir.
So, another way of helping would be to literally buy a Waze camera. You don't have to have a subscription. Waze cameras are very cheap. Their outdoor cameras are maybe $60, $80. You can have a motion detection. All you need is a router at the location, so you've got that. It will send an alarm and it'll let you know. And you even have a speaker saying, you know, where somebody could come on and say, hey, you're being recorded.
Yeah, and I don't know that
It would be a cheap.
Yeah, and I don't know-
I agree with the razor wire, by the way, but.
I don't know that any of those, I don't know that I can't stand here and say none of that is being worked on. I don't know what they're doing about it behind the scenes. Occupancy will probably help. The other thing that occurred at West Park is the men's restroom was vandalized. Something, an unknown object, it won't tell me that, I don't know what it was, shoved down the toilets. The janitorial service was dispatched immediately when they got there. Whatever it was that was shoved in the toilets was so tight and so heavy, it was a regular hardware store snake wasn't capable of clearing it. So we had to lock the restrooms for the weekend because they were inoperable. Today, over the last couple of days, but today they finalized the project. They actually had to unbolt the toilets and access the plumbing and clear the situation. So right as of today, right now, hopefully, the restrooms are functioning at West Park.
So one more comment is that a surveillance camera system also will reduce your insurance for.
But who in the community is gonna guard it? How are you gonna get,
Well,
it all costs a lot of money because the only game in town is Spectrum was able to reach that part to Bakersfield.
yeah, I mean, you could look into it and see, but there's ways of putting together fairly low-cost systems if somebody's willing to at least get the alert, because it'll alert you on your phone. And if you want to respond, you can respond right over your phone and yell at them over the microphone.
But who's gonna take the responsibility?
That's what
Or
else
we
we can
gotta move on here.
Yeah, so, sorry.
Sorry, I have a lot, and it's hard for me because I want to share so much with the community.
Me too.
We're so busy. We are doing a tremendous amount of work just in Rosemont. And there's, the other communities are equally, right? So I want to share this with everybody tonight. A lot of you have participated in some of the public workshops we had regarding the new skate park. We have a lot of local theater kids in this room with the designer, and this is the concept. Approved design that has now moved to the planning department for the new skate park in Rosemont. All the elements, this is not to scale. It's blown up so that you can see the individual elements and what they're called. And this is all, again, based on feedback from local groups that we gathered. And this has moved into planning and permitting process. So I brought this, I'll pass it around. Everybody can take a look at that. One more thing really quick, I apologize, Joel. It's budget season, right? You all know Measure K passed in November. In April, the county did start to collect some of that funding. There was about $15 million collected, and then but that was a small window of a fiscal year, right? It was not a complete fiscal year. They're anticipating now, we're starting our new fiscal year, that it will be about $56 million in extra sales tax revenue to the county of Kern. This is for public safety, right? We all voted, we want more sheriff's deputies, we want more public safety. As a result of that, there are a lot of bullet points in this new budget that are pertaining to new communication system for emergency responders, new equipment for the fire department, incentives for new officers to come into the sheriff's department. There's a long punch list. There is a special meeting Monday night at 6 p.m., public meeting regarding the budget. I think Joel is planning on attending, commissioning, okay. If you cannot and you have a specific request that you would like to bring before the Board of Supervisors regarding budget, email it to me and I will make sure that it gets passed forward. And I'll stay after the meeting if I didn't touch on something you're wondering about, I'll stay after and we can talk.
Thank you.
And we love her to death. And she gave us a wonderful dissertation on all the projects and stuff going on in the school district. They're spending a lot of money doing a lot of great things and getting a lot of participation. I'm sure she'll probably, in her time, elaborate on some of that activity as well. And kind of hot, so the turnout was a little bit low, but we had a great turnout. We had a really good crowd, a lot of good community feedback, and it was a good meeting. Didn't see family this month, but a little hard to get out probably.
I've been traveling a lot.
Have you?
I had to recover.
Yeah. Gretchen is there. So, anyhow, let's see, biggest things coming up, September Fest, obviously, the Armed Forces Day Parade, we got a lot of activity on that. It is gonna be a entry free for the Armed Forces Day Parade. Up through August, I forgot what day we picked, day 23rd or something like that, just before the September 23rd or something like that, just before the September Fest. And then the $10 fee after that, just for the paperwork after. But it will be free parade entries up until then. So we're looking forward to that. Had a meeting with Lieutenant Pagano to finalize the parade route. And then we get some permits for that. One of the other things we talked about also, because we want to kind of plan it at the same time, because they're back to back almost, is the Christmas parade. We're going to do a Santa's Village at the event center in the chamber. So we're going to get with a couple of groups. Dave's going to do a food giveaway. We're going to do it March, so we can work with them. As far as clothing giveaway, in addition to gifts giveaway with the Santa as well. So we're planning a pretty big event on that as well. Maybe get some fake snow out there and kind of dress up like Santa's Village. And so which will all be part of the parade that day. I think that's really about all I've got.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why does no one from the chamber attend either the Kern County Development Corporation or the Eastern Kern County Economic Development Corporation? We just had a meeting in this town last week at the Rosemont Community Services District. How come nobody from the chamber attends any of those?
Well, basically, we don't get notified of them. Communication issues.
All right, Jack, thank you.
Yep.
Barbara.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jack, for very kind words. Just give you a little bit of an update. Summer school ends tomorrow, the end of 3 sessions. It's been 7 weeks actually of getting a lot of kids back on campuses. They had like 2 days off and then they were right back. So we're excited about that, to actually give the teachers a little break. We have construction going on at 4 of our 6 sites, big construction projects. Tropico Middle School, 28 new classrooms, a new track, new basketball courts, new volleyball courts. Roseman High School, a brand new cafeteria. Roseman Elementary, we are going to modernize the old RES campus and turn it into a preschool TK. That is the only project right now that is still in DSA. Everything else is out of DSA. And at West Park Elementary, we are installing, starting Monday, 5 new portables because unlike some districts you hear about who are experiencing declining enrollment, I just want to say Roseman Southern Current is not that district. We're averaging a growth registration of 5 to 15 kids a day. Today at lunch, I announced we were at 3,597 kids. This evening, we're already over 3,607 kids. So we are growing. West Park Elementary is over 1,000 elementary kids. So we're going to probably be looking for some property very, very soon. If you happen to know some nice property on Roseman Boulevard headed west, please let me know because I'm interested in maybe 30 or 40 acres out that way as an investment. Yes.
What's a DSA?
Department of State Architect. Yes. So pretty much we go back August 7th for teachers, August 9th, our students will be back on.
I'm sorry, you said, I thought it was August 8th.
August 9th.
Oh,
It's Wednesday, August 9th. They have 3 minimum days in a row. We go back on Wednesdays. Any questions? Yes, Chris.
Are we go back to the September timeframe when school starts to May, that'll look.
I doubt it. I don't know why that happens, but it's very contractual with teachers. Everything has to be approved by teachers, so, and the classified staff. That's
I
really
thought it had to do
important.
with aligning the winter break, so they didn't come back to that. And then the graduation and going, kids going to college.
Yes, all of that's part of that. We need to get transcripts to the colleges and all
Right,
that good stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, unrelated.
That's okay.
Will August 9th be a minimum day?
Yes. Yes, it is.
The clocks are getting rid of them for a longer
No, I
day.
just. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have no more community reports.
Surprises me coming from a small state where my airport was in the middle of town, so everybody knew the airport. I come out here and I'll talk to a random person. They'll say, "There's a spaceport here." So don't worry, I'll educate you guys tonight. But in case you don't know what Mojave is, we are a civilian counterpart to Edwards. You guys should be familiar with Edwards because we all live in Roseman, but we are the civilian spaceport that enables testing of aircraft and spacecraft, and rocket motor testing is huge out there. So Sheriff's Department and Highway Patrol, where'd the Highway Patrol guy go? I was going to give him a compliment. I was one of those guys that they caught speeding on California Highway, and he didn't give me a ticket, and I totally deserved it. I even told him, and he still wouldn't give me a ticket. I was like, Highway Patrol, right here. The Sheriff's Department, we work with you guys obviously a lot over at the spaceport because, and understand that you guys are extremely limited on personnel, and you're, believe it or not the first airport I worked at that had the same problem. Up in Peninsula, Michigan, they had one county sheriff for almost the entire peninsula. So imagine when you're a commercial airport and you're loading passengers, you have to have a police officer there standing by, but he's responding to a call in the next 2 towns over. You guys have it rough, but we really appreciate what you guys do. Plus, we had a naked woman riding around at the airport a couple weeks ago. Total quick response. I had 3 sheriff's deputies there. No problem. So priorities, I get it. But Mojave is really interesting because a lot of people don't know how important the spaceport is, not just for the regional economy, but also for our entire industry. We are only one of 12 civilian spaceports in the nation. Even though we don't have vertical launch operations, and if I have any say in it, we won't. We do horizontal launch operations, which are where you have a carrier aircraft, and then you have either a rocket or you have a passenger rocket aircraft that's attached to it. All of the missions that we do at Mojave are horizontal takeoff, and so it acts. The launch acts just like an air. The airplane is treated just like an airplane, as opposed to a rocket. When it goes up, there's an apogee, and you have to have a clear way underneath so that if anything ever happens, it doesn't fall down on somebody. So Mojave's a little bit unique in that perspective. We do more than just spaceport operations and aircraft design and testing. How many of you guys have heard of eVTOL?
Heard of what?
eVTOL? Electric vertical takeoff and landing? Or how about Urban Air Transportation Initiative? Okay, in the near future, and I say near future, maybe within about 2 years, you're going to see a shift in how we transport people and products like packaging delivery into remote autonomous operations. Okay, and that seems a little bit scary if you think about it, because you might want to hop into one of these eVTOL aircraft. And, okay, I'll give you an example. LAX. You all know about LAX, right? How many of you drop somebody off, pick somebody up curbside at LAX? How many wish you would never have to do that again, right? LAX is a nightmare curbside. Big airports are a nightmare curbside. Imagine how nice it'd be if you went to a remote location, parked your car, went through screening, and then got into a small 4-place aircraft that flew you to LAX. You get off the plane, right into the terminal, you're done, all right? That's some of the initiatives that we're working on with eVTOL, is to try to find a way to make it easier to transport people and goods in congested areas using aircraft that have 0 emissions. And I bring this up because The state of California has two major aviation initiatives they're trying to accomplish. One is urban transportation. The second one is low to no emission aircraft. What we're working on Mojave, if you've been paying attention to the news recently, Universal Hydrogen is basing their testing operations at Mojave. First aircraft that has a hydrogen-fueled engine that they're testing. Okay. We also have another company that Universal Hydrogen beat to the punch that was already planning to come out to Mojave that is testing a hydrogen engine as well. Mojave's put in a really interesting position because now we have to figure out how do we sell aviation-grade hydrogen safely. Believe it or not, hydrogen is somewhat safe compared to some other fuels, but we have to figure out how to sell it commercially. And that is a real challenge because in aviation, we have no guidelines to go with. We actually have to use the guidelines that are used for hydrogen-fueled cars, which is really fast afterwards in my opinion, but it's an interesting problem to have. But I'm sure you guys have all heard some of our major tenants like Scale Composites. Scale Composites is doing a lot of work right now with government contracts and designing and building, I don't know how to put it any other way, guys, weird planes, like really strange airplanes, right? But in case you guys don't know about Scale Composites and their impacts to aviation as a whole, anytime you fly in a 787, a composite built aircraft, you can thank Scale Composites for that technology. They're the ones that developed it, right? So they're a major force at Mojave, and they're one of our primary tenants that started the airport. You guys have probably all heard of Stratolaunch, right?
Yep.
How about VIA, or Virgin Orbit?
Yep.
The Virgin Orbit had a 747 Cosmic Girl that would launch a rocket from its wing. They had a launch over in England about 6 months ago that had a failure, and it completely shut down the business, right? They just ran out of money. Well, we were afraid that we were going to lose this huge entity on the airport, plus we're going to lose Cosmic Girl. That's a horizontal launch platform. We want to see that. Stratolaunch went ahead and bought up the 747, Cosmic Girl, and all the ground servicing equipment. So they are going to actually pick up where Virgin Orbit left off, which is awesome for us because we get to retain the 747 at the airport, which everybody loves to come and check out. They're going to repaint it, by the way. But also, they're going to continue to do horizontal launch operations. So we're not going to run into any problems in the near future with, there's potential legislation that says if you don't launch so many satellites or launch operations a year, we'll pull your FAA funding. That's been floated before, okay? So we really want to protect that, and in this position with what Stratolaunch did, I feel that we're in a better spot than we were if Virgin Orbit were to just completely pull out. Keep in mind, Virgin Galactic is still based in Mojave, but not for long. I'm going to be honest with you guys, these guys are leakier than faucet. They're all going to the states that are giving them incentives to move and relocate and build and hire people. California's not very good at that. I'm not going to lie, we suck at it. I've lived in 6 states. California's the worst. It's very challenging because we work together in Kern County to accomplish trying to bring in business, and we just don't get a lot of help from the state. So, neither here nor there. Inland Port. Have you guys all heard about the inland port that's going in north of the airport? This is a really cool project. We were just talking about it earlier because they did not get a grant that they were hoping to get from the state, which is unfortunate. But it doesn't matter because the inland port company that's constructing it was already planning to pay out of pocket. They were just holding off until they find out they get the grant, because if they got the grant, they could build out a larger facility. And it would have benefited the airport because they would have paid for a couple of infrastructure projects to support that operation. The reason why an inland port is so important to us here in Mojave and in Kern County is because if you have air cargo operations that can load 100 million tons of cargo a year, which is not a lot, guys, the airport turns into a cargo airport. And what does that mean? It means instead of getting $159,000 a year entitlement means as an airport that's part of the NIPIS, we get money from the FAA to do repairs. Well, everybody in this room, how much pavement do you think you can cover with $159,000? I only think a sidewalk, okay? So it's very important for us to find and secure those types of monies for the infrastructure, and being a cargo airport bumps us from $159,000 to $1.5 billion, which is wonderful, right? So the inland port is doing us a favor if they start operations, and they have 4 cargo aircraft operators on the hook right now that want to come to Mojave. If we have one of those guys flying in and out every day, we're not only selling a bunch of fuel because they don't tanker in their fuel, but we're also opening up opportunities for better infrastructure development at the airport. And jobs, right? Supposedly, I don't know, do you know if there are going to be longshoremen working there?
I believe that is correct.
Okay, I'm quitting my job, I'm going to be a longshoreman.
The figure at 300 out there,
So that's going to be really interesting to this community, to Mojave, to Tehachapi, to any community in the area. And I was saying this when I was living up in California City. Be prepared. 300 longshoremen jobs, these people are going to live close to work and they're going to buy up all this property. But we're really excited for it. Like I said, if you don't know what longshoreman is, great union contractor job.
Yeah.
Great job, you know. I'm not kidding. I would probably quit and be a longshoreman rather than an airport manager.
Pay a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. You're all about the money. But that will also be positive for the community because, as you guys know, there's a trickle-down effect. You know, you have somebody that's making this kind of money in our county. It flows back into the county, provided that they spend their time here, right? So just, I've been warning everybody, hey, just be prepared. Housing's going to be a little bit more challenging than this ports bill. Let's see here. On the horizon, what else we got going on here? So we talked a little bit about zero-emission aircraft and eVTOL. We are looking into a microgrid for the spaceport, and the reason why is because right now it sounds like Southern California does not have enough power to meet our existing and future needs for development, and that's a huge hurdle for us to get over, utilities. So when I say we, Pioneer Partners and I, we talked to everybody that's putting in like little microgrids in the area or solar and beg them, hey, can you get us more power? Can you get us more power? But at the end of the day, it looks like we're going to try to do a joint partnership to install a microgrid on the airport, which will serve multiple purposes. But one of the cool purposes that it'll serve is, do you guys know that you can make hydrogen off of solar panels and water?
Yeah, they do it in Israel because you aren't producing solar at night. What they're doing is they're using the power to convert the water to hydrogen and oxygen. It's not the most cost effective, but you're taking energy you have, and then you can burn the hydrogen at night for power source.
Exactly. What we're looking into is, remember I was just talking about hydrogen aircraft testing in Mojave and us selling hydrogen, being the first airport to sell at retail. We could possibly even generate our own hydrogen. It wouldn't be very quick, but I can't imagine we'd have that much demand right now. So everything kind of ties into each other, and into the big picture, the big scheme of things and stuff that we're working on. Hypersonic testing. Okay, this one is also near and dear to my heart. One of the benefits of Mojave and Edwards Air Force Base and China Lake, there are 2 high-speed corridors that are in the vicinity of these airports. Does anybody know how fast you have to go to be considered supersonic or hypersonic?
Yeah, it's about 750 knots at sea level.
You're an engineer, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can smell it.
I used to be the community relations guy for the base.
Okay.
I cheated.
Okay, so that was supersonic, right? And then hypersonic is what? Speed limit.
My speedometer went on.
It's like 7.
5 to 7.
5 to 7?
Yeah.
So-
It goes up.
So the reason why I bring it up, it's kind of interesting. The only high-speed corridors right now that do not have speed limits, which means you can go as fast as your plane will carry you, are military high-speed corridors. The civilian ones that are being constructed in the United States, especially over land, have a speed limit of Mach 1, which I find hilarious. Kansas practically dedicated the entire airspace over it for high-speed testing. And it doesn't matter, you can't go above Mach 1. We need to get to Mach 5, Mach 7 to test hypersonics. So what Mojave's doing right now is it's very tricky and technical to get access into those high-speed corridors. We're working on developing a streamlined process so that when somebody says, hey, I need to test a hypersonic aircraft, which by the way, right now we have Boom Supersonic at Mojave testing. They just have to follow these procedures and make sure that they're dovetailing off of an environmental assessment off of a previous test entity, and it will open and make access easier for high-speed testing. And like I told you before, it's very important in Mojave that we have this because we're the only place right now in the United States that has these kinds of corridors. So we're working on that issue right now, but it's a technical design thing. It'll probably take another year or so till we're up and running.
But it's a huge advantage because right now what they do is they shoot hypersonics out in the Pacific, which means you don't recover it. So to have something like that here is a big boom for, no pun intended, a big boom for bringing that ability to test on ground.
Exactly. And then that now brings in a new challenge, and forgive me for going to the weeds too much, but our licensure is for horizontal launch, not recovery. So we're going to have to go down the road. I can't believe this. We're dumping like $400,000 to write the recovery license, so that we can get entities like the Talon. That's the high-speed test article for straddle launch. They don't want to dump it into the ocean when they're done. They want to recover it and bring it in and land it in the Mojave. And sadly enough, the FAA requires us to have a separate license for that. So,
Wow.
I know. Oh, guys, I came from the certified airports world, like your Bakersfields, your LAXs, and I come to Mojave, and it's a completely different world. The licensure is impossible to do locally, which kills me. But anyhow. Just really quick, we have a couple other initiatives that we're really working on. This really is important for Roseman, and I think the entire county. Laura Lynn knows a little bit about this, but it's something that's near and dear to my heart. We need to link up where entities that produce college graduates, engineers, technicians, skilled trades to the airport itself. Believe it or not, our tenants all need to have these type of technicians and technical experts, and they're short on them. And we're producing them in places in Kern County like Bakersfield, CSU, Bakersfield, and Bakersfield College, Saracoso. Funny story, since coming to Mojave, I was actually surprised to find that we had a security team and not an airport operations team. Airport operations does everything on the airport, including like closing if we have to. We are working on training up our existing security officers so they can be operations specialists, while at the same time, we've been recruiting new operations specialists from CAU. CAU has an aviation degree program, and that's what we need for entry-level operations positions. So we've hired 3 people from CAU so far, and we're closely monitoring that, and we'll continue that relationship as we move forward. Saracoso has done some gap analysis and had made some recommendations on types of courses we should offer locally here. Anticipate Saracoso offering an aviation ground school at Mojave within the year. They're doing it to test it out now to see if an aviation program would be appropriate and well attended locally at Saracoso. And we're obviously very supportive of that. We will be holding a couple of design competitions in the near future. One coming up in early 2024 for CSUB is going to be the sponsor, the host. We will sponsor it and hold it in Mojave, but they have a 3D aircraft design competition and a UAS competition. Believe it or not, both those things tie directly into what we do at Mojave. And if we host these events there, the judges can be all these aeronautical engineers that know a heck of a lot more about how planes fly than I do. Even better, it's a recruiting opportunity for these entities to find college seniors and handpick them out to recruit. So, and it also brings the community to the airport, because we're going to invite the public and really try to get some participation on this. So as you can kind of see, we have our hands in a bunch of different things right now, but it's all intentional. It's to develop and build the airport. Yes?
Have you guys thought about going lower, like maybe having summer jobs or internships for high school students?
Yes. What happened was, when COVID occurred, the airport just completely dropped our internship program. Personal information about me, I'm huge into development, hiring and retaining our future replacements, because dang, I'm halfway through my career. We gotta find somebody to fill in my place. I better start looking for them now. So it's a huge thing, and plus, Mojave's a test bed. We're a test airport. What goes along with testing? Experimenting. What goes along with experimenting? Education, training. It doesn't make sense to me why Mojave's not as involved with the community like that and making those connections. So we have a very specific focus this year to make those connections and work on more community involvement. Yes, sir.
Only halfway?
I
just have a really quick comment. If you have Facebook, follow Mojave Air and Spaceport on Facebook. there are a tremendous amount of job opportunities with the different companies that are tenants on that airport. And as just generally, the Mojave Aerospace Port page does a really, really good job of posting a lot of the different jobs and opportunities that are available.
Thank you, but we actually have not been very good about that lately. That is something I am going to promise you guys. Kelly asked for a list of links to all the open, the job links for all the companies that are on the airport. We need to put that on our website. I'll send it to him in case you guys have any questions or want to copy the list or want to check out some of these jobs that are available. We're hoping to be kind of like the focal central point of Mojave airports for trying to get the information out about internships, which, by the way, a lot of our tenants have internships. One problem that I'm finding is that most people don't know about them. So getting the word out about open positions and opportunities for development is key for Mojave.
So are you going to the schools like Mojave, Roseman, Cal City, and getting those students linked up to a curriculum that can actually help them get on some of these jobs?
Boy, I love where you're going. And did you know that Cal City has a AMP dual enrollment program? I didn't know that, and I lived there, right? I'm taking baby steps right now, but my goal, here's my vision, okay? And don't quote me on this for the newspaper, I swear. Some of the high school students in Mojave get shipped up to Cal City, right? I've never understood why the high school that's practically on the airport property doesn't have an aviation program, like an aviation dual enrollment program. I hope to step into that realm in time, but and as I like to remind people, you guys all seen Christmas Vacation. Chase pulls out this ball, a knot of Christmas lights. I feel like that's what I'm doing in Mojave right now when it comes to our community relations. So we're working towards that. That's the goal, though, is to have a significant involvement with the entire community. I apologize, I took way too much time.
That's okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Hey, Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to get to
Okay, so
Come talk to me. I'm
yeah,
interested.
so I actually rent one of your buildings at Fort Penn, I think, so we're using it for storage, which drives me nuts because it's just collecting dust. But I've got storage in a bunch of other places. Anyway, sorry to go down a rabbit hole. Our other company is A2ZFX. So A2ZFX does product development, special effects. All the Mini Coopers you see with a Red Bull can on the back, we build all those. We built over 1,000 cars for Red Bull. They're all around the United States, Canada, Mexico. They're DJ trucks, they're bars and event stuff. When I first started working with Red Bull, they were approaching me. I turned them down for 1.5 years because we were doing design for Volkswagen Audi and a lot of movie projects like Batman and Robin and Total Recall and Jodie Foster with Contact and all the different projects and things. And finally agreed to go ahead and start doing some stuff for Red Bull. They have 43 employees in the United States, so that gives you kind of a little idea of the history. I've outlasted 7 CEOs of Red Bull. And our other company, which is Sage Cheshire, is Aerospace. We do Northrop, Boeing, Lockheed. We make Gulfstream's missile avoidance tail cones for their G5, G4, and G3 aircraft. Just flying over next. We do work for NASA, made a bunch of their pods and stuff. My background in aerospace was I started in the 70s working with a small group of engineers in a flight hangar down in Hawthorne, pushing around napkin sketches and conceptualizing what we could do. We came off of a program called Hopeless Diamond, which was Northrop's version of what ended up becoming Lockheed's F-117. Worked on Tacit Blue, which was AP-1. It was their very first stealth airplane. It's called Shamu. I called it the Flying Twinkie, because that's what it looked like. But that ended up being the test bed for what we ended up building. I built a tabletop model we presented to the Pentagon for building the B-2. So we went from a very small group of guys in a room pushing around concepts to conceptualizing the B-2. I ended up running the RCS group for model development and testing, full models. the facility that was out in Tehachapi or Cajon area on the mountainside. So we did a lot of our testing there, as well as White Sands, New Mexico, and Great View, a few other places. Did about 16 different programs. 3 of them are public knowledge, and had a lot of fun doing it, the process. But when I left, I opened up A to Z FX and Sage Cheshire, where we do a lot of different crazy things. A to Z, we also do a lot of viral videos. If you're interested in looking some up on YouTube, it's Hum Rider, where the car goes up in the air and wheels go up and drives over other vehicles. We built and ran that in 7 weeks. The video game weapon prank, where people are posing with a gun and they don't realize that we're remotely operating it, and it blows a police car in half because they think it's actually going off. It's got a solenoid in it. So we've done a bunch of different viral videos that have gone, hundreds and hundreds of millions of views. We built the Steve Owen Memorial. I have very huge respect for Steve Owen. He was a great guy, and just that whole thing was a total tragedy. And so we were the ones who put that together. We worked with the school districts for, different things they're doing, So I get sucked into a lot of things, which is problem solving. I just proposed to the state of California, who I won't tell you my kind of sentiments about where their head is, but about water. Okay, so we wrote a proposal which will bring 9 billion gallons of water in California a day. We can provide 100% of the water for Los Angeles, 60 to 70% of the water for San Diego, and we can increase the water to Kern County, eliminate the need for bringing water from the LA Aqueduct, which would mean we put water back in Mono Lake, and we would supply water for the Sacramento Delta. Up to Mojave, currently the windmills, which is the total debacle. Windmills, 80% of that money is paid for by the government to fund the windmills. 20% is brought in by venture capital. That money goes to GE to provide the windmills, which is paid out to organizations in the Netherlands, Germany, Italy, and France, who buy those towers from China. So we're basically funding China for windmills. That cost, when it gets to our port in Long Beach, $350,000 to transport a windmill up to Mojave Town. What my proposal is for the state, and I've talked to the Department of Energy, is we produce a UV resin. It doesn't require any energy, heating, whatever, that cures in 7 to 10 minutes. To produce a building in Mojave near the airport with rails, where you're doing a layup for the windmills, you roll it out, cure the system, bring it back in, assemble. Now you're transporting windmills 5 miles, 10 miles. You eliminate all this, because currently things like the windmills, you aren't eliminating the carbon footprint, you're moving it. Because the amount of carbon we produce to ship things around the world is insane. GE warranties these windmills, of course. They give you a 1-year warranty for the windmill, unless the wind exceeds 100 miles an hour, which never happens out here. So literally in a week, the warranty is void, which means you have a lot of dead windmills that aren't turning because there's problems. By creating the jobs in the local area where the windmills are used, here in Mojave, or in Palm Springs, or in Houston, you have local facilities, because nobody's doing that in the United States. We don't make windmills. But by doing that, you bring high-paying jobs to the community, you raise the economic structure, you increase all the infrastructure around. It's just positive for everybody. So part of my challenges with Congress is getting the attention of Department of Energy and the government to start these kind of programs, because it's a big benefit. Back to water, just real quick, is one of the problems also with the water is that those of you who have been dealing with or involved with the building department, right? You probably noticed that a lot of building permits don't go through right now because there's no water. You don't have water rights. So that's becoming a problem. If they don't fix the water problem, the western United States will die because you aren't going to be able to build. If they can't build, there's no tax revenue, right? And so it's just going to create a chain reaction.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask you a question about the museum.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm actually here to talk about. That's what, yeah, it's like I hear all these other things. It's like, you know I need to talk to you, I need to talk to you. You know, it's like, and you and I need to talk. So, going back to some of the things about the museum. Okay, so the museum was first started by Pete Knight and Doolittle and a number of other people. And they gathered up enough money to build a 7,000 square foot museum on the base. Okay? When 9/11 hit, people couldn't go on the base anymore. Okay? So they've got this nice little museum that's way too crowded. And so I'm the chairman of the board for the Flight Test Historical Foundation. And so my thing is problem solving. So I managed to bring a few $1 million to the effort to get to where we are. I don't know, how many have seen the structure out there?
Probably not many, but
Yeah. So it's pretty impressive. We actually had put together enough money to build the shell, the initial shell. I came with videos and slides and everything, even entertainment too. So some of the viral videos and some of the background things that I've done to kind of give you a little bit of an idea. When COVID hit, the cost of that construction, we had enough money to put up the walls, the roof, the hangar door, foundation. When COVID hit, the cost of everything went up by over $1 million, okay, for the building. I'm surprised the Air Force isn't pissed off at me because I decided to start the building anyway. You know, I wanted to get the framework up before the LA Air Show because I wanted to make the impression when people drove through that gate, they saw what we were building. Okay. I've got generals that are on my board of directors for the flight test. We're back in Washington, D.C., and Kurt Betke, who's a great guy, told me that when he saw the pictures of the building, he cried, right? Because after 30 some years, all of a sudden, it was actually becoming a reality. The museum outside of the gate now gives accessibility to anyone. Foreign nationals, it doesn't matter because you're outside of the gate. That museum is not only paramount for preserving the history of the aircraft, it also preserves the history of the people, of Chuck Yeager, Bob Cardenas, Bob Hoover, all these guys that were so influential, the people at NASA, the technicians. I tell people that Kitty Hawk is very significant because it was the first airplane to fly. People go to Kitty Hawk like it was Mecca. We've got to go see Kitty Hawk. So that one plane, the first of everything else in the United States, was built right here down the street. All the space shuttles were built, you know. The streets are named Columbia, Endeavor. There's a reason for that. That's where they drove them down the street to get up here, right? It's such a significant thing. The first jets, all the rocket motors for the space program were all done up on the hill. It's very significant. And we're tying a lot with Mojave. Yes?
So when will the museum be up?
Good question. We're still trying to get the money together to get the funding. We're right now doing the Friends of the Foundation program, where people are pledging to become a lifetime membership for $1,000. You could give $25 or $5, it wouldn't matter. But there's a drive right now, and it's actually done more than just raise money. It's raised community awareness.
It's called Friends of the
Foundation. So I'll leave a
Thank you.
packet for you. I brought enough for everybody, even the kids. I actually brought some other things regarding one of the other programs. So I've been involved in a lot of different things, kind of a little bit crazy. The most significant things, like with A to Z, were all the movie projects and things. I curse myself because we developed these little yellow dots in every street corner. And every time I go over it with a shopping cart, I get angered at myself. We did tons of movie projects. The Dodger helmet car, right? So the Dodger helmet car, I own the patents for that. We did another version, a newer version of that. And when we went to talk to the NFL and MLB, even though there's patents on those designs that I created, they said anything you bring to us we can steal. So I call them the sports mafia. So a lot of different crazy things. I've got my hands in too many things, and people have a problem that may not relate. Steve Owen Memorial. Art, can you help us with this? So we pulled the Steve Owen Memorial in for probably, a fifth of what they were getting quotes on. Because my thing is figure out how to solve problems.
Well, then why are we having such a hard time collecting money for this museum?
Seriously. Well, because of the cost. Okay, so I'll tell you what it is that we are the most significant place for aerospace history. This is not the Antelope Valley. When was the last time you saw an antelope? It's the aerospace valley, right? And that's kind of the coin that is really being pushed for what this area is. It's aerospace valley.
Well, how can we help you promote the Friends of Foundation?
Friends of the Foundation, it's really getting the word out, getting people aware. But not only what Rosemont can involve themselves in, because it's more than just getting money, it's involvement, awareness, getting people to know. But what the museum brings back to Rosemont, more than probably any of the other communities, if you think about it, because we're literally right down the street. Okay, what the museum does, my vision of the museum, because it started out as a pretty place to house beautiful aerospace artwork, old airplanes and things like that. And my vision is that it's actually more than that. It's a museum, but it's a community center. It's STEM education. It's an outreach. Virgin, and I know Richard Branson. I know Jeff Bezos. But like they will never get together in the same location. Elon, who I've met and talked with many times, he would never get together at SpaceX or at Virgin's location. But if you had a neutral zone, you had some place that nobody's got secrets sitting behind the door, whether it's Northrop, Lockheed, Boeing, whoever it is, that they can now come as a community and exchange ideas and concepts, okay? And all the kids, whether they're in grammar school or high school, universities or colleges, they're gonna come to see their idols. And guess where those guys are? They're all right down the street from us. It's the Flight Test Center. It's it's NASA. It's all the testing facilities. It's Mojave, right? And so they're going to come to this location because they want to see these people they idolize because they want to be that person. And now that creates opportunity for internships, for outreach, for exchange of ideas, and for education, because what we want to do is not only have lecture halls, but have education where we're teaching about aircraft and supporting education programs. So school systems, they get their money based on the number of kids. One of the poorest school systems in this area is Edwards Air Force Base, right? How do we fix that? We've got some of the most brilliant minds right down the street. What we do is we have them set up a lecture series at the museum, and then we have the local schools in Rosemont or in Lancaster, whatever. And ultimately what I'd like to see, if we get enough funding, that we provide buses to bring kids in. I went to Palm Springs Air and Space Museum with a good friend of mine, Robert Gilliland Jr. His dad Robert Gilliland, was the guy who flew every SR-71. He was the initial pilot for every single one. And so Bob and I were there, and they're like, yes, and here at the museum, kids are free. And I looked around and said, our museum, adults are free also, because we don't charge. It's government property. The difference between this museum and others is that we're not in this urban space. So Seattle are in space. They got tons of housing and people. And down in San Diego, the same thing. You've got all these people and tourists and everything. In the Flight Test Museum, you know, Edwards was established because they wanted a space you could crash stuff, right? So it's remote. And that's why we're having a hard time raising money, is that people don't know that this is the most significant spot in aerospace. And trying to get that out to have people aware that are interested, that will get involved and contribute. You know, I go to people who have money that I know I'm not going to get money from. And I'm like, you know, fine, you don't want to give me your money? Give me your contacts. You know, help me spread the word. Help me get people aware. And that's part of it, is raising the awareness, because what that museum does is it increases tourism. It not only helps the education and it helps the community outreach, but it increases the number of people coming through the area, where also now you have enough people that you need to start building hotels in the local community in Rosemont. And guess what? Now we need to have more restaurants and more infrastructure to support that. So it's good for the entire community. So as we build a museum, we build Rosemont, we build Mojave, and it becomes an international stopping place. So I don't know if any of you have seen the picture of what we're building. It's pretty impressive. It's a world-class architectural firm that designed this crazy wild structure. And on my computer, I actually have an image that I was going to show you that shows the base structure that's out there and how it fits into this. And so we want something that is a significant enough design that when people look at it, they're like, oh, I know what that is. That's the Flight Test Museum out of Edwards. We want it to be like when you look at a picture of the Louvre, you know exactly what it is.